About half of new businesses fail within 5 years. These are the stories of entrepreneurs who beat the odds and built brands recognized around the world. Starting with two Brooklyn friends who created a 99-cent iced tea. Arizona Beverages started more than 30 years ago, and they're still making new flavors.
We get 30, 40, 50 samples with tweaking, touching, smell, finish.
To this day, Arizona's co-founder and chairman Don Voltaggio still tastes every new flavor himself.
It's not generally something that a chairman of a company gets involved in, but I'm not your typical guy.
Don started out by selling something a little harder than iced tea.
I was a beer distributor. I didn't know anything about iced tea, other than I drank it when I was a kid.
But all of that changed one cold morning in 1991.
I bumped into a Snapple guy, and he gets his big order for iced tea in the wintertime. And I said, I'm going in the tea business. I made the decision right there.
The next year, Don and his business partner John Farolito co-founded Arizona Beverages. But the competition was stiff.
Hi from Snapple.
Snapple was the leading ready-to-drink iced tea brand with 20% of the U.S. market.
Lipton Original.
That same year, Lipton teamed up with Pepsi to launch its first iced tea, Lipton Original.
It's new, and it's extraordinary.
And Coca-Cola and Nestle started selling canned Nestea together.
We didn't have the money or the wherewithal to do the advertising, the other stuff that our major competitors do. What I did notice and saw firsthand was consumers made a decision right at the cooler. Most packaging to me is boring. You know, they use traditional colors. The original designs came from my wife and my house in Queens. It was designed around the Southwest. That was the inspiration.
That's also what inspired the name of the company, despite the fact that
I had never been to Arizona. I had never been west of the Mississippi.
Their next strategic decision was making their cans bigger. While their competitors sold 16 ounces of tea for 99 cents, Arizona sold 24 ounces for the same price. But Don says the most important thing was making sure it tasted good.
The first time you buy it is because you saw it and it looked good. But if it don't taste good, I call it game over. You don't buy it again.
In the company's first 3 years, it sold 18 million cases of raspberry and lemon teas. Still far from the 55.6 million cases Snapple reportedly sold in 1993 alone, Don's strategy was working.
It worked because consumers said, wow, let me try that. It looks great. The price is fair. They bought it and we delivered with great taste.
Retailers could often change how much they charged at the store. So in 1997, Don decided to make a small tweak to the can's label.
And we put the 99 cents on the can. And I had a salesman at the time said, it's the dumbest idea you've ever come up with, boss.
But years later, the price has become so synonymous with the brand, it was spoofed on an episode of Atlanta.
$1.49?
But the price on the can, though.
The price is on the can, though.
By the early 2000s, Arizona was reportedly outselling Snapple.
When somebody lays their hard-earned dollar on the table and gets a can of tea or juice, and they say, wow, that's a good deal, I've now secured that customer.
Over the years, that good deal has helped Arizona build a dedicated fan base.
My name is Hannah Mead. I'm 26 years old, and I am a Zonie.
Zonies are the name for Arizona tea superfans who incorporate their love of the brand into their daily lives. Hannah's passion has influenced her wardrobe, her room.
Over the years, I've collected a lot of merchandise where to the point it's, if not the thousands, at least the hundreds. This one is older than me. This one my dad actually gave to me because he had found it and he knew that I was collecting cans.
But most notably,
this is my 2011 Hyundai Genesis Coupe. The design on my car is Arizona green tea, ginseng, and honey. All the accessories that I have is Arizona. I tried the green tea when I was about, I want to say 11 or 12. And ever since then, I've just become an ultimate fan of the company.
Hannah has spent the last 5 years transforming her car into Genizona.
It's at least $26,000. Everything is teal and cherry blossom. My headlights, when I have them on, I have a custom etched infinity mirror that inside of it, it says Genizona. I've also painted the gauges with cherry blossoms on it. I have a cooler in the middle with displayed Arizona hearts. I get a lot of pretty exciting reaction to, oh wow. You just look at it, is that Arizona tea?
It's even gotten her noticed by the company.
Somebody caught a roller of me, like a still shot of me going down Coastal Highway, and Arizona ended up posting that photo.
The company has also leaned into its nostalgic 90s look by teaming up with brands like Adidas and Birri Lazari for Arizona-themed merch drops since 2019.
Everybody has a story with the brand, whether you were a younger kid and you had it or you're in the older years. The 99 cents overall pricing means that they're looking out for their customers.
But how has Arizona been able to keep its 99-cent promise for so long? Many beverage brands are publicly traded under massive corporations like Pure Leaf under Pepsi and Gold Peak Tea under Coca-Cola. Being privately owned has allowed Arizona to make all major decisions, like pricing.
We can afford to hold the line. We didn't have some bank or some board of director or some stockholder saying, what are you doing?
Take Snapple. Its 16-ounce bottle of tea cost 99 cents in 1992. The company went public later that year, and since then, it's changed hands multiple times, being acquired by corporations like Quaker Oats, Triarch, and Cadbury Schweppes. Today, a 16-ounce bottle of tea costs around $2. We can't know for sure if going public caused the price increases, but most of Snapple's competitors sell their tea at similar prices.
Most of the competitors are big, mega corporations that can't be flexible, can't be intuitive, can't do things off the cuff.
Don almost lost control in 2005 when his business partner John wanted Arizona to go public. At the time, Arizona was reportedly receiving buyout offers from major corporations like Nestle and Coca-Cola. What followed was a nearly decade-long legal battle between the founders. An ownership agreement that Don and John made in 1998 required both founders to consent to the sale of any company shares to outsiders. In 2008, John filed a lawsuit claiming the agreement was unenforceable, but ended up losing the case. In 2012, Don elected to buy out John's stake in Arizona. But this decision fueled a court battle about how much the company was actually worth. During the 2014 trial, John's lawyers argued that the company was valued at $4.5 billion based on buyout offers, while Don's put the price tag closer to $426 million. The trial was also littered with accusations of fraud, oppression, and intimidation from both parties. John's lawyers claimed in one statement that Don sabotaged bids for Arizona in an effort to oppress John. Meanwhile, Don's lawyers, according to Fortune, accused John of trying to intimidate Don and Arizona's employees by bringing an NYPD detective and other armed men into the company's headquarters. As the pair fought, Arizona was at a standstill.
I couldn't make necessary investments. I couldn't do things for the future. I couldn't do technology. I was kind of being scrutinized.
Finally, in 2015, Don was ordered to pay John $1 billion for his 50% stake in the company, marking the dispute as the biggest corporate dissolution case in New York State history.
I had to because I had thousands of employees that would be unemployed. And there's some people go into business and their game is to sell. That's not my game. After it was behind me, I said, now it's our time to build a good foundation.
But keeping the low price tag has been more difficult. The cost of aluminum has more than doubled since Don founded the company, and he worries things could get worse since he imports most of the fruit.
been a little challenging lately with the tariff talk. We buy about 100 million pounds of aluminum every year.
In 2020, Arizona reduced its can size to 22 ounces. While Arizona told Business Insider they changed the size for efficiency and to use less aluminum, some think it's an example of shrinkflation, a strategy used by many other companies in recent years. 3 years later, the company raised the prices of its 20-ounce plastic bottle, which jumped from $1 to $1.25. It's something fans noticed and have occasionally called out. The company has taken trucks off the road during the daytime to reduce transportation costs and introduced new machinery to help speed up production.
When we first started the business, the can lines ran at about 100 a minute. Now we run them up to 1,500 cans a minute. And to keep it affordable, we got to be very modern and very efficient.
Don says he also spent very little on traditional advertising.
I don't think it works. What we found was if a consumer gets a good value, he's a good consumer for the retailer as well, because he becomes loyal to that store.
Don is also strategic on how he adds new flavors, like the green tea with honey and ginseng he introduced in 1995.
My wife and I were on a plane going to Hong Kong, and she ordered green tea and told me how healthy it was. And I tried it. I said, it tastes disgusting. I said, if we could make it taste good, it would be great.
His wife was, again, the designer behind the iconic floral can.
And one of my sales guys at the time said, men are not going to buy a product with pink flowers on it. I said, great, we'll get all the women to buy it.
Today, the green tea is one of Arizona's best sellers and most recognizable cans. Over the years, the company has faced several lawsuits related to misleading labeling on their products, including one that claimed the green tea had no ginseng in it. That suit was settled in 2023, according to Bloomberg Law. Arizona also released dozens of other flavors, including mango, watermelon, and peach.
Mango out west is our #1 seller. Watermelon in Mexico is our best seller. I like Arnold Palmer. I like the zero sugar one I drink all the time. Tastes great. I met Arnold over 20 years ago. I liked lemon and tea mixed together, and I liked him. He was a terrific man. And we introduced it today. That's our second best seller. We sold last year over 500 million containers with his face on it. Pretty good.
Since the settlement, Don and his team have produced new items like snacks, coffee, and energy drinks. He's even gone back to his alcohol distributing roots with some of the brand's newest products.
Students are hard with vodka.
But even in this new era for Arizona, Don says he has no plans to raise the price of the 22-ounce cans.
I want to grow like a weed. Every morning I'm excited to do what I do. I got the satisfaction of what we're doing here is right, because I saw expressions, I saw people's emotions. It's great. And that's the big payoff for me.
In the early 1980s, video games were on life support. In North America, arcades were empty and home consoles were collecting dust. But in the middle of the crash, one company from Japan brought the industry back to life. In 1985, Nintendo marketed the Famicom console as an entertainment device rather than a toy or video game system, an effort to remove itself from the stigma of the crash. It also capped each third-party publisher's output to 5 games a year, incentivizing developers to focus on quality over quantity. And to regain consumer trust, Nintendo created a monthly magazine, Nintendo Power. It was even accompanied by a hotline players could call for help with Nintendo games. Every game published for the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, carried an official Nintendo seal of quality.
This was Nintendo's way of showing that they have vetted and approved software for their platform. There were a couple of resourceful developers back in the 80s that would try to get games on the NES without approval, and they had to use some interesting methods to try to get by the copyright protection.
In Nintendo's quest for quality control, a key part of its strategy was developing its own games and IP in-house. In 1985, Nintendo released Super Mario Bros., and Mario remains its most recognizable character today. From there, its lineup only expanded.
they've had success, of course, with Mario, which is the same or bigger than Mickey Mouse at this point. Pokemon, which they own as well, partially. Zelda as well.
With quality games and repeatable, beloved characters came a loyal, rabid fan base.
There's over 2,000 people out there right now.
This is the main entertainment center. I've tried to create kind of like what I've been calling little video game shadow boxes for each of the console generations from Nintendo. Here I've got a copy of Super Mario 64, signed by Charles Martinet, the original voice of Mario. If we ever had a fire, that would be the first thing I'm grabbing.
Drew Kennedy, who goes by Nintendrew online, owns an extensive Nintendo collection and was converted to a lifelong fan in the 90s, thanks to quality games and those beloved characters.
There it is. I'm in my 30s now. I started collecting when I was like 13, but I was a fan of Nintendo since long before then. My mom used to work as a babysitter on the side for one of her coworkers. Sometimes I would tag along. The dad of the family that she would babysit for, he had a Nintendo 64 set up in their living room with one game, with Donkey Kong 64. At the time, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, but I absolutely loved it. I would play through the first hour of Donkey Kong 64 every time I would go over there and reset the save file and play it again, and it was just absolutely a core memory for me. Up here is another one of my favorite oddball systems, the Virtual Boy. And this is the complete North American library. This cartridge alone is worth about $750 today.
But Nintendo wasn't the only one in the industry with a character-based strategy. In 1991, Sega made Sonic the Hedgehog the face of the Sega Genesis.
Sega follows the same formula. Let's have a mascot sort of lead the way, but differentiate. Sega was already a competitor in the sense that they have a little bit more intense hardware. Ultimately, Sega, of course, produced the Dreamcast, still one of my personal favorites.
A new Sega console. Simply plug into a TV and play.
The launch of the Genesis marked the start of the first console war, where Nintendo and Sega battled it out to control the video game market in the United States.
Every Nintendo sold, from our point of view, is one person out there not buying Sega software.
Sega's market share went from just 6% in 1989 to as high as 65% by 1992. But while Sega marketed to older kids and teens and made some risky bets on console hardware, Nintendo stuck to its slow but steady strategy of family-friendly titles and commitment to quality. By 1995, Nintendo had regained its lead over Sega.
They just couldn't hack it. There's only so much room in the market for it, and Nintendo won out. And at some point, the difference between the different devices becomes marginal. And so then people go with what they know best. Are the games better? So other than Sonic, there's a few different IPs on the Sega platform and the ecosystem there. They're not quite as popular as the Nintendo ones.
Nintendo's secret to beating Sega is still the company's edge over its competitors 30 years later.
Everything was in service to making sure that game experience was top tier, especially from the marketing perspective. We were really showcasing the great work that the developers were doing, creating these magical experiences through games.
That's Krista Yang and Kit Ellis. They worked for Nintendo of America's public relations team for over a decade.
The thing that's really interesting about working at Nintendo is it's a very large company, but it's a very small company relatively in terms of other companies within gaming, within entertainment. Something that we heard about all the time was the concept of competing in the red ocean, which is what we had been doing previously with Sony and Microsoft, where everybody is kind of competing on the same points, versus the blue ocean, which is we don't really have anybody that we're competing with. We've created our own niche.
Nintendo is very much colorful and playful. Xbox tends to focus more on like shooters. They have a lot of racing games. PlayStation really leans into like more adult narratives and like deep stories. Now you have Astrobot from the PlayStation. It's like, okay, so 15 years later, you got your own Mario, but Nintendo has already claimed it because they've gotten it right from the beginning.
Nintendo's exclusive franchises like Zelda and Pokemon kept growing in popularity. But to access them, you needed to own a Nintendo console.
Nintendo likes to keep its own titles on its own platforms, and it's one of the few companies that can do it. There's no Nintendo games on Steam. There's no Nintendo games on Xbox. That's for a reason.
This exclusivity has allowed Nintendo to keep game prices high and rarely put them on sale. Take Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example. It's 8 years old and is still sold at full price on Nintendo's website. Even a pre-owned version costs $50.
Nintendo has always positioned itself as just like a premium experience. Ever since Nintendo has re-established value in the industry, they haven't let it go.
That's something that we would have a lot of conversations about, was let's be careful that we're not doing anything that's going to devalue our products, either literally in terms of dropping the price, or in more of an ethereal way where it's going to make our consumers think less of them.
When I was growing up, I always kind of was drawn towards Nintendo and PC gaming as well, because it seemed to me at least that about 90% of the library that would come out for Xbox or PlayStation would usually also come out on PC.
That lack of exclusivity can mean massive price cuts. Take God of War, Sony's once exclusive top-selling game on the PlayStation 4. It retailed for the standard $60 in 2018, but has now been as low as $20 on Steam.
You can pretty reliably expect that those games are going to go on sale not long after they come out. Whereas when it comes to Nintendo, those games are reliably going to stay at that same price point for years. Those are the ones where I will sit in line or put in a pre-order to try to get them on day one because I want to be able to experience it as soon as possible.
So why does Nintendo seem to be the only one to maintain premium prices?
Nintendo has managed to capture and establish a portfolio of things like Pokemon and Mario and Zelda that are of such high quality. These are at the top of the food chain in terms of experiences, and they know that, and so they very carefully curate them so that they don't have to negotiate on price.
I think Apple is a good comparison in terms of a company. An iPhone is not so exorbitantly priced that people simply can't get it, but it is a little bit more than the other options that are out there. But there's a strong belief that the reason that it's priced that way, that the added benefit that you're getting versus the others is well known and very clear.
While Mario Kart World is the most expensive base game Nintendo has ever released, the Switch 2 is also Nintendo's most expensive console at $450. But that's still cheaper than most competing gaming systems, which is another part of Nintendo's strategy.
Throughout the console generations, they've generally been the cheapest option, and I think that is right in line with their kind of family-friendly strategy. They've wanted to have as many people as possible get access to their product.
A prime example of this success was the Wii, priced at $250 and bundled with Wii Sports in North America. That's half the price of the PlayStation 3 at launch.
The Wii was so much fun, and it was something very different.
It sounds too good to be true, being able to play a game of tennis in your lunch hour, and you don't even have to take your suit off.
It's very friendly, as opposed to like the dead serious Xboxes of the world and the PlayStations. It was like, hey, this is a grown man kind of thing. I remember playing Wii tennis with my mother-in-law, and she's beating me.
Cheaper, more broadly appealing consoles means a wider audience to sell exclusive games to. Evidence suggests that most people buy Nintendo hardware to play Nintendo games. Between 2018 and 2023, about 80% of Nintendo's overall software revenue came from its first-party games. Even Hiroshi Yamauchi, a former president of Nintendo, once said, "Sony is a company where hardware leads and software follows. Nintendo is the opposite." But is Nintendo's fan base big and loyal enough to pay higher prices? We went to a Switch meetup to find out.
Don't love the idea of $80 games. $60 games are already quite a lot. And I don't know if I will get as many $80 games, honestly, because that's just a lot of money in general, especially right now where I think a lot of people are struggling financially.
Switch and Play members live streamed their initial reaction to the Switch 2 console and game prices.
Yeah. This is going to be a bit of a bigger pill to swallow, but I'm seeing the price of how much Mario Kart costs.
70, right?
Nope, 80.
Damn.
80.
While the scene was going on, like it wasn't just myself, Mike, Peter, and Christian in the video, but also people were in the chat that were from Switch and Play, having that reaction on stream. When we realized that, oh, it's actually going to be, $80, it's like, wow, like that's that's really steep.
I'll take it, but man, that's going to be quite the something for families to try to buy a system for a Switch 2.
I thought it was gonna be like 400. I expected maybe 500 if they were gonna pack in a game. But the $80 like Mario Kart price was definitely a shocker.
Some fans are finding reprieve in the $500 bundle version of the Switch 2 with Mario Kart World.
My only respite for this is that like if it's bundled in the package, it's like $30 less. It's $50 basically. So I'm taking that as like, oh, I'll just go digital and save myself $30. So it's a little iffy.
But even that deal doesn't have fans entirely sold. There's been backlash online about the Switch 2 Welcome Tour, a mini-game and tech demo collection that costs $10. The Switch 2 also has a button for the new game chat feature, which eventually requires a paid subscription.
Looking back on the Wii in particular, I remember, Wii Sports was the killer app for the Wii. Like everybody wanted to play Wii Sports, and that was a free pack-in with the Wii. So I think it was very easy for a lot of people to justify. It would be nice to see them do the same thing for the Switch too.
Even Reggie Fils-Aimé, the former Nintendo of America president, seemed to take a subtle dig at it, tweeting about how he fought for the Wii Sports to be a free pack-in. Releasing a new product at an all-time high price is always a risk. In 2011, Nintendo released the 3DS for $250, $80 higher than the DSi that preceded it, only to drop the price by exactly $80 5 months later. Critics said that the high price and lack of launch games left little motivation to upgrade.
Sony did the same thing with the PlayStation 3. You come out with a price point and then you realize you're wrong.
Some analysts speculate that Nintendo raised prices in anticipation of tariffs.
They say, around the Switch 2, oh, we think it's a premium experience that warrants this higher price point. Yes, and also there is a huge amount of tariff-based volatility in the market. When you build things that are manufactured in China and have to be shipped to the US, it's very expensive. And so they have to bake that into their models.
We can't verify how big an impact tariffs had on the price of the new console or games. But fans were fearful that the Switch 2 could get more expensive when Nintendo delayed the pre-order date in the US and Canada after President Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs in early April. But it didn't end up raising the price, and Nintendo's president denied that tariffs influenced pricing. Many balk at an $80 price tag for a single game. But adjusted for inflation, $80 isn't as pricey as it seems. Take a look at this catalog from 1997. Super Mario 64 cost $60. That's around $119 today. In 2020, some companies started selling games for $70, the first price adjustment in decades. That'd be around $86 today. Take a look at this chart. It shows the price of Nintendo's top-selling titles since the NES, adjusted for inflation. Games have actually gotten cheaper. Some say $80 games will be the new normal. One former PlayStation executive said Nintendo was pulling the Band-Aid right off for the industry. And Yost says it's long overdue.
The cost of game development has gone up. If you compare, say, the cost of a franchise like Call of Duty, a decade ago, a brand new Call of Duty game would cost about $45 million to develop. Today, that's about $700 million. Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development for about 11 years, and it has a budget of a rumored $2 billion. The Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, cost $1.5 billion and took 6 years. And so we're already double all this. And it's not even out yet. During the same period that costs have exponentially increased, price point of a game has barely moved at all. Something's got to give. They have to either sell more copies or they have to increase the price.
Nintendo says prices will be variable, but other companies are already following suit. Just 1 month after Nintendo showed off the new Mario Kart, Microsoft announced that some upcoming first-party games would cost $80. Even if that change is overdue, consumer perception matters. The Switch 2 and its games feel expensive. In the US, consumer sentiment has declined every month of 2025. People worry about the economy and feel like their money buys them less than it used to. But despite the outrage, some say $80 is more than worth it.
An average single-player game, 40 to 60 hours to finish? Where can you get 60 hours of entertainment for $80? Show me. What roller coaster goes on for 80 hours?
A good rule of thumb that I and a lot of my friends tend to use is the kind of like $1 per hour rule. Nintendo games offer a ton of value and also just an unparalleled replayability. You can always come back and, especially with the specific kind of nostalgia I have for Nintendo's experiences, like I will never stop going back and playing my favorite Nintendo 64 games or my favorite DS games.
Of course, that relies on Nintendo maintaining the quality it's known for. Games like Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, with its glitches and performance issues, left a bad taste for many fans. But Nintendo's cultural hold on fans is strong, both with younger audiences it brings in through movies and theme parks, and the older fans who have been with Nintendo for decades.
I think it's certainly become more common and more acceptable for people like me to stick with their fandom into adulthood, and it's definitely less of a social death sentence to be a huge nerd in 2025. And even looking at the marketing for the original Nintendo Switch, it's clear that that's not lost on Nintendo.
Many fans share Drew's sentiment. The Switch 2 pre-orders sold out in a few hours.
People will buy it anyways. My forecasts are 12 to 15 million units in the first year. They have such a huge install base. The loyalty's there. They have so many fans. The IP is so strong. They will sell like hotcakes.
Kit and Krista, however, share a much more cautionary tale.
It's going to sell very well, but it's not going to reach the same heights as the original Nintendo Switch, and part of that is the price.
You know, once all those people buy Mario Kart at $80, what about the next rung of people outside of that core fan group? What about, you know, the more casual video game player? I think it's going to depend on the software, the games that Nintendo will announce beyond what they have for the rest of 2025.
If we want to sustain the success of the video games industry and have it continue to make these experiences that we like to enjoy and play and share with others, they're going to have to adjust the economic model, and that includes its price point.
I think the concern from fans is that variable pricing means that the price can only go up. But I think variable pricing where there's actually kind of a lower range of price points for games is a great opportunity for Nintendo as well.
If any viewers are struggling to enter this space and want to play Nintendo games, I would give the advice to look backward and try to find some that have already stood the test of time and have solidified themselves as classics. I mean, you could probably pick up a copy of Star Fox 64 for less than $10 in any major city. That's a fun weekend.
This thief is stealing $1,500 worth of Lego, according to the store's owner. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In the past decade, there have been a slew of Lego thefts, including one totaling about $300,000. But why are thieves around the world targeting a toy? Well, one reason might be that the most expensive Lego sets cost more than an iPhone 15. That's why this guy was trying really hard to reach the top shelf.
These went from around $120 to overnight selling on eBay for several $1,000s. My friends and family don't actually know about this room. I think they'd probably be quite shocked if I ever opened the door and they saw the Lego that was in here.
But it wasn't always like this. In 2006, Lego's most expensive set was $270. So how did we get here? How did Lego go from a children's toy to a collector's item? And why is it so expensive? Today, Lego is the world's largest toy company.
Everything is awesome.
But its story didn't start with plastic bricks. It started with wood. While Lego found success with wooden toys, the company's first major turning point came in 1949, when its founder took a gamble and started manufacturing plastic bricks. Plastic toys were cutting-edge technology at the time, but Lego wasn't the first to pursue this idea. Here are 2 patents by a company called Kittycraft from 1939 and 1945. And well, you can decide how much inspiration Lego took. Plastic bricks didn't click right away. Lego had to stick with the product and innovate to pull kids away from wooden and metal toys. And to understand the price of Lego today, we have to rewind to its very first set. It was just a box of bricks without instructions. Some of the earliest gift sets cost 25 Danish krone, about $60 today. But in 1955, Lego released the Town Plan, a simple version of the sets we have today. Kids built buildings and combined them to create little Lego cities. With this release, Lego solidified what it called the system in play. Its guiding philosophy would be that every brick should fit together and stand the test of time, allowing kids of all ages to build in unlimited ways. And we can't not mention the reasonably priced line. Then in 1958, Lego perfected its bricks with the stud and tube method, an interlocking design that enabled large yet stable builds. Lego uses that design for its bricks to this day.
Lego is brilliant. Pieces that were built from the beginning of Lego interact with pieces that were built today.
With just a few exceptions.
Do you know about brown? There were some brown bricks that were made like during a certain period of Lego that were more delicate than others, and like if you try to build with some of those bricks today, they're a little brittle. But 99.9% of all Lego that has ever been made is designed to stand the test of time and is awesome.
By the 1960s, plastic bricks were a hit, and Lego made them its full focus. But at the time, Lego's products were still pretty simple. Aside from reinventing the wheel in 1962, its builds were blocky and predominantly used the classic rectangular brick. Lego's second major turning point came in the 1970s, when it started to release more creative sets, like the 1978 Space Cruiser. It had 170 pieces and cost $10, or about $48 today. Lego referred to these themed sets as the system within the system. They added new pieces that expanded the Lego palette, like colored transparent parts and thrusters. For builders like Dave, these pieces expanded the possibilities of Lego.
It's really fun to have other options because it's not like drawing where you have unlimited possibilities. Like, your limitations are the brick that exists. So every time a new piece or a new color gets added, it's exciting. So builds that I built like 10 years ago, I would build totally different now because there's an expanded palette of what's available to build with.
Throughout the 70s, Lego transformed from a toy into a creative medium. Releasing dozens of new parts, sets, and even debuting the iconic minifigure. The company experienced huge success and worldwide growth in the 1980s.
Hour after hour, day after day, year after year, Lego changes. There's no end to Lego.
But much like those brown bricks, cracks were starting to show. By the late 1990s, sales slumped, and the company was losing money for the first time ever. Lego had grown rapidly and spread itself too thin, investing heavily in theme parks, media properties, and merchandise. Meanwhile, sales for its original focus, the brick, were slipping. Lego released sets that required less building, ignoring what fans loved about the toy. Take the Galador theme. which barely resembles a Lego product.
Every dimension needs a hero. Every hero needs a special power. In Galador, it's glinching.
Glinching was not going to save Lego. Sets like those had one-off pieces that didn't fit into the Lego system. They cost more to manufacture and were less profitable. An executive would later say, "We had actually seen a decline in profitability, yet we continued to invest as if the company were growing very strongly. We failed to realize that we were on a slippery path." The company's annual report described 2003 as a very disappointing year for Lego Company. Executives were also concerned that physical toys might not keep up with the exploding video game industry. One of the few things that kept Lego afloat was Bionicle, the company's best seller for 4 years straight. Another bright spot was its licensed Star Wars sets, first released in 1999. These ranged in price from $6 to $90, and they flew off the shelves. Licensed sets would become hugely important for Lego, but more on that later. Outside the company, something unexpected was growing, all on its own. It turned out that kids weren't the only ones who thought Lego was fun.
Even in college, I was like, my friends were like going out to the bars, and I was like, well, but I could buy some more Lego with that money.
Dave is what some people refer to as an AFOL.
Adult fan of Lego, which I don't know. I mean, it's a term that we use somewhat endearingly, but it's also a little cheeky.
His skill and passion for Lego earned him a spot on the TV series Lego Masters, which millions of viewers watch weekly for its competitions between adults.
I'm like a super fan. I watch like the international versions too. I love it.
But the hobby looked a lot different when Dave first started building. Before the 2000s, even Lego's most complex sets had young age recommendations, like 9 and up or 11 to 16. But that didn't deter creative people like Dave from getting into the hobby.
This is like 40 years of collecting Lego. It's almost embarrassing to think about how much the dollar value is of this Lego. If I buy a set, I'm taking that apart. I'm building it once to like learn the techniques, but then I'm taking that set apart and integrating that into this collection so that I can use the pieces for my own ideas.
By the 1990s, there was a growing group of passionate fans like Dave, who had either played with Lego as a kid or discovered it in adulthood as a creative outlet. And they were spending a lot on Lego. For enthusiasts, having a room or an entire basement dedicated to Lego is a common practice.
Everybody has a different system that works for them. It's in here somewhere, you just have to find it. The system's always changing. One of my favorite containers right here. I sold those 3 goats recently. Got croissants and bottles and eggs, chicken legs. So this is a whole container that just has minifigure hair. Maybe this is a little morbid, but you could have a whole container of just minifigure heads. It's definitely more than 100,000 bricks in this room. It's probably somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000 just individual Lego elements in this room, but like some of them are really small. I mean, there's probably 10,000 pieces right here.
Dave estimates his collection is worth about $50,000.
There's lots of ways to have a collection to build up. It might be a collection of vacations that you've taken over time, and this is a collection of memories and builds and pieces from many, many, many years of doing this. I love it because it's a way to tell stories. I can talk about or think about like things that have been happening in my life or things that are happening in the world or tell imaginary stories. I was younger, building by myself in my apartment. It's a very solitary thing, building Lego. You're usually by yourself or maybe with a sibling or a family member. It really can be for anybody because there's so many different ways to be with Lego.
In the 1990s, the passion of builders like Dave was quietly growing, waiting for a spark that would forever change the hobby.
You've got mail. I'm at the center of the web.
High-tech illusion, fantasy.
Somebody can hardly turn the computer on, it's all a bit worrying.
When the internet started to catch on, people like me who had been building discovered that there were other people like me. And it was great to be able to connect, to see that other people were building. It wasn't just like building in solitude. And that's really, I think, when Lego started to become something else and not just a kid's toy.
But Lego didn't always accept or understand its adult fans. One former executive said that decades ago, Lego saw fans like Dave as a source of irritation. Another said Lego didn't think their adult fans had value. One of Lego's former CEOs said, "We kept thinking that much more should be done for the adult. Most people on the management team thought we should concentrate on children instead."
For a long time, up until the 1990s, being a fan of something was not seen in a positive light. Like, why are you wasting your time playing with Legos? And so I can totally see why a company in the 1990s would really want to reject that.
But the AFOL community's momentum was not easily stopped. It was growing not just online, but in person.
People from all over the world would come together to be part of a convention.
In the early 2000s, conventions helped fans connect and build a strong community. It was also great marketing for Lego, because enthusiasts would display giant creations, like this 8-foot-wide Lord of the Rings build that took 11 years to construct.
I don't know how much it cost. It was definitely in the thousands. Like for me now, I'm done buying Lego. I feel like I have enough here.
I've been playing with it since I was a kid. I got my first set when I was 4 or 5. A good portion of the apartment is filled with Lego. When we buy a house, we'll very quickly have a Lego basement.
We often find the most powerful fandoms and the longest lasting fandoms come from the community. They tend to be grassroots or ground up kind of fandoms. That sort of creative transformation coheres a fan community, I think, stronger than if a media corporation or a toy company says, here's the way I want you to be a fan.
But remember this set?
I bought 2, I sold 1, and I think I'll hold this one for a while and see where I get to.
One huge aspect of the hobby driven by the community is the resale market. Lego retires its sets every few years. After that, if you want to buy it or need a specific piece, your only option is to buy secondhand. Because of this artificial scarcity, some sets skyrocket in value, and savvy buyers view Lego as an investment.
So this is my Lego storage room. I'd say there'd be over 600 to 700 of them stored inside this room. My kids aren't allowed in here. Probably could be stored better, but I have an air vent for ventilation and store a lot of them in cardboard boxes to keep the boxes in good condition. I know the retail value of the sets I've purchased is over $50,000. Secondary market value, I would suspect it's a lot more than that. Some of the sets alone are worth 3 to 4 times what the retail price was. I keep this nicely locked away. It is not a set to play with.
Justine says she collects Lego not with the intention of reselling, but because she wants to build each one.
Just have to get it out. It's a big one.
However, knowing many sets increase in value gives her some pause in cracking open the box.
So I don't really have a strategy or approach to buying Lego. I buy what I like. Unfortunately, I like a lot. On occasion, I have bought a set twice because I've forgotten that I purchased it. There is one minifigure alone within that set, Harley Quinn, that is worth $400, and the set itself is worth $1,200. So I'd love to build it, but at the same time, it's really hard to say I'll go, you know, spend $400 overnight while building that set and reducing its value. My ratio of built Lego to Lego in box is probably a little out of whack.
Prices on the second-hand market can be eye-watering.
Like a minifigure like this could go for like $200 because it's a very rare minifigure that only appeared in one set ever.
But not everything multiplies in value. And this massive network of spare parts is what empowers builders like Dave.
I probably ordered like 2,000 lightsaber rods just to make this floor. It doesn't even look like Lego anymore. I'm putting them on their ends and putting them all so close together that they make that hexagonal tile.
In the early 2000s, Lego's fans were innovating more than the company was. And in order to survive, it needed to embrace AFOLs. Lego recognized it was pursuing a losing strategy while ignoring a key customer base. To turn the tide, it cut costs, sold the theme parks, and refocused on its core business of building with bricks. And it was time to finally consider adults. In 2004, Lego, now under a new CEO, planned to fundamentally change the way it did business. Over the next few years, it sought to improve its products by developing what it referred to as grassroots collaboration with its adult fans. In addition to making sets more profitable, Lego needed to recapture customer excitement. And who better to ask for help than its most passionate fans? In its 2006 annual report, Lego said it obtains inspiration from the many independent homepages and clubs for Lego enthusiasts all over the world. In 2007, Lego released a $500 Millennium Falcon with over 5,000 pieces, recommended for ages 16 and up. This marked a jump in set complexity, price, and target demographic. To put this change into perspective, the 1999 Star Wars pod race set cost $90, had 896 pieces, and listed an age range of 8 to 12.
They've also hired people like me who were Lego builders to work for them. The things that we kind of pioneered are now being pioneered by the people who work at Lego. So it's much more exciting because the techniques in Lego sets have become more advanced. And you learn more when building a Lego set than when you did when you were a kid and the sets were simpler.
When fans are running the thing that they're a fan of, they can expand it in ways that they know other people will enjoy.
This is the start of the company's third turning point, getting kids and adults excited about Lego. To achieve this, Lego released bigger, more interesting sets and expanded its licensed products.
Brand tie-ins in Lego sets work phenomenally to get people interested in purchasing the set. People that are fans of that particular brand might purchase the Lego set that wouldn't normally buy Legos.
This strategy coincided with an explosion of pop culture fandoms and a growth of what's referred to as the kidult industry.
Kidult industries are industries that produce products that we would associate with children, but aimed at an adult market. And it's become a huge area of business.
Lego released its first 18-plus set in 2020. And since then, the company has released dozens of products each year, clearly targeting adults. Some of these sets, like the Star Wars AT-AT, are complex, with thousands of pieces and a price tag to match. Others feature themes like dried flowers that try to appeal to older builders. These sets are also perfect to display once you've built them.
I display my Doctor Who Legos because I want people to know that that's an important part about who I am, and I'm proud of that. Previously nerdy things and hobbies and fandoms are absolutely a part of mainstream popular culture today.
Now, LEGO's website even says adults welcome. This strategy allows LEGO to cater to a customer base and a price point it couldn't reach if it only focused on kids.
I personally don't set myself a budget for LEGO because if I did, I'd just blow it.
LEGO also acquired Bricklink, the largest LEGO resale marketplace, in 2019. At the time, LEGO's CEO said, "Our adult fans are extremely important to us. We have worked closely with the community for many years and look forward to deepening our collaboration."
We've seen just how much money that sort of thing makes. That gives it seriousness. But I think also because we've just kind of normalized weirdness in a way that makes me really happy.
I really never cared what the age was on the Lego set because I was like, I want the pieces. I just want the pieces to build. But it's good messaging, I think, from Lego to say, like, this isn't just a kid's toy, this is for adults too. And for me, it didn't matter, but I think for a lot of people, it is welcoming.
And LEGO's plan to save the company worked. 2 decades later, the company boasts nearly 10 times the revenue. But amid this success, profits weren't the only number going up. Walking down the toy aisle and seeing LEGO sets priced at hundreds of dollars can be alarming. But is LEGO actually more expensive than 10 or 20 years ago? To answer this question, let's look at price per piece. That's the price of a set divided by how many pieces are included. It's not a perfect measurement, and it doesn't include minifigures, but think of it as a broad look at the value of a set. Remember that 2007 Millennium Falcon? That had a price per piece of 10 cents. A decade later, LEGO released a new Millennium Falcon with over 7,500 pieces for $850, and a price per piece of 11 cents. That's just 1 cent higher. And adjusted for inflation, it's actually 1 cent lower. Some set themes are more expensive than others, but the price per piece has remained surprisingly stable over the past 20 years. Ironically, some of the worst value sets are ones designed for young children, like Duplo. This set has a price per piece of $1.30. So why are sets more expensive? They're much more complex. This chart shows an increase in average set prices since 2014. But it aligns with an increase in average pieces per set since the same year.
They could do a Millennium Falcon for $30 and it wouldn't look as good and it wouldn't be as big. But they know that they can do this big one because there is a market for it.
So if you're walking through Target seeing high prices and thinking that LEGO is expensive, you're not entirely wrong. Since 2020, LEGO has released significantly more sets that cost over $300. But it's also releasing more sets overall. About twice as many annually as it did in 2008, and about 4 times the amount it released in the 1990s.
You can have unlimited pieces, but it's also fun to like just build with what you have. And sometimes the limit of what you have is more challenging than building with unlimited pieces. Once in a while, I'll be working on something and be like, well, is it worth it for me to go buy more of this, or can I find another solution for it with what I have so that I don't have to buy more of something? That's really what LEGO is about, is creative problem solving, is like, can I solve it this way? Is there another way to solve it? Or is there a third way that I haven't even thought about yet?
Going all in on the brick helped LEGO beat the one-hit wonder problem many toy companies have. but it also created an ecosystem and a creative medium that has endured nearly 70 years of competition and shifting pop culture.
My mom tells me that she got me my first Lego set when I was 4 years old. I don't think I could have predicted where Lego would go. I love Lego because I feel the nostalgia from when I was a kid. You know, it brings me back to those moments of sitting on the rug, building that set, being young and enjoying that. And I like the way that it connects generations, that adults can play with the same toy with their kids that they played with when they were a kid.
It's continually new and it's continually refreshing, and that's in its DNA. I don't think we're ever gonna see a fandom for Lego die in the way that we might for a media text, which waxes and wanes over time.
Red Stripe Racing Slicks. New Hot Wheels.
Mattel launched Hot Wheels in 1968 with the idea of designing realistic cars that were faster and flashier than its competitors. And its first year, Hot Wheels outsold the #1 toy company at the time, Matchbox.
I have an old Matchbox vehicle here. It's just enamel paint, has these rubber tires, there's nothing special about it.
Brendan Vituski has been working as a lead designer at Hot Wheels for over 20 years.
We hired real car designers. They came from Detroit and worked here. Most of them had moving parts or a feature, so this had an opening engine hood so you could see the engine detail.
In the 1980s, as the first waves of fans were getting older, Mattel started to launch limited edition designs, targeting adults.
This is the first product that Hot Wheels offered with the collector in mind. They made this 15th anniversary product.
Today, Mattel has a whole line of collectible cars called the Red Line. These have up to 30 parts and sell for as much as $37 each. Compare that to Mattel's cheapest cars, which typically have 4 parts and sell for just a couple dollars.
All the parts just almost literally fall into place. You know, the body, the window, the interior, the chassis.
Redline cars are only sold online and to people who paid $10 a year to be in the Redline Club.
So you won't find this at your major retailers or anything like that.
Brendan leads the team that designs these cars, like this Mercedes they've been working on for over a year.
And our manufacturing team told us no at first. And it took a few rounds of debugging just because of complexities of manufacturing it, making sure that all 4 doors open.
Redline cars like this lowrider are produced in limited quantities.
All of our Redline Club cars have that kind of intricate detail.
That lowrider is one of Bruce's favorites.
And the paint job is beyond spectacular. And the wheels, just like a real lowrider, they pop out. Is that amazing? So look at this car. I mean, this is awesome. A Hot Wheel for $35, and it's a piece of art.
Redline cars can sell for double on eBay right after they're released.
The general rule is the less production volume, the more collectors who want it.
But Bruce mostly buys cars for his personal collection, with a few exceptions.
So I do hoard some cars that I think in the future will go up in value. I look for all the Ferraris I can buy, and then I kind of stick them away as investments. This is sort of like my bank vault. So for example, here's some Ferraris, I have some Porsches that I'm sticking away. But the Japanese cars are very hot right now. Everybody likes the Nissans, the Toyotas, the Datsuns.
Adult collectors like Bruce are part of the reason Hot Wheels sales are booming today. They reached $1.4 billion in gross sales in 2023, up 14% from the previous year.
Now, the most common question I get as a Hot Wheels collector is, do you play with your Hot Wheels? I open up my museum 4 times a year, and yes, I get on the ground with the kids and I reenact my childhood when I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old playing with Hot Wheels back then. Always happens.
Bruce buys discontinued cars at conventions, like the York Toy Extravaganza in Pennsylvania. One of his favorite trading partners is Randy Blake, who's had a booth here for 25 years. He has over 300,000 cars in his collection.
What's up, Randy?
Hey, Bruce, how's it going, man? Nice to see you. I got some carded red lines. I got some nice higher-end convention cars.
Do you have that, the Fair Lady Z, the new NFT?
I do. I have one of those. That's my last one left right there. That's the.
Yeah, I just got these. Are the newest ones that just came out from the club.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Both nice
The
cars.
Porsche, yeah, both of those are
Both
the two
nice
hottest
cars.
ones.
Yep.
What do you think of an even trade?
I could do that for you, Bruce. We could work that out.
Another deal?
Absolutely.
Hey, Jerry.
What's up, Bruce?
You tell me, what's going on?
How's it going? Because I know you're the man that has everything except this.
Okay, something I don't have. Wow.
How long has it been since you've seen one of those?
I saw one on eBay in my life, that's it. 2 cars.
Made only 1 year.
Yeah, great condition, too. What are you asking for it?
$1,800.
That's high. How about $1,200? Life's not always about making money. Give you $1,500 for it, and I'll give you cash.
You got it. Sold.
Okay, 13, 14, 15.
Thank you, sir.
We got a deal? Thank you very much. Appreciate you saving that for me. I'll give you mine. So this may be the only one existing in the world today, this type of package. And when you're a collector, you want to try to find stuff that nobody else has. This falls in the category. I paid a little bit more than I wanted to pay, but I guarantee you if I came back here for the next 10 years, I wouldn't find it.
While Bruce snatches up anything rare or historic, some have a niche, like building complete color sets of one type of car, what collectors call a rainbow.
Hey, Bruce. What's up, guys?
How are you, Bruce?
I'm doing okay.
My man.
Cosmo Kogan is trying to build a complete set of the 1968 Mustang.
I've always been a big Mustang guy. I actually had a Mustang when I met my wife. And for me personally, I just love that. I call it like a lavender, just beautiful color. And like this is a $1,000 car, you know, in this condition.
When Hot Wheels first came out, they painted cars for the first time, a toy car, the same way a real automobile was painted, electrostatic paint, which nobody had ever done that before. The gem-like sparkly quality really appealed.
Everybody likes shiny. Women like shiny, the men like shiny. This is our shiny, right? I mean, my wife's shiny's a little different than mine.
Many credit Elliott Handler, Mattel's co-founder, as the mastermind behind Hot Wheels.
Elliott Handler told me one day that his greatest inventions were taking something already invented, but just making it better.
That's what his wife, Ruth Handler, did in 1959 when she helped create the Barbie doll.
So think about this. A husband and wife invented the #1 boys and girls toy in the history of the world.
Back then, most dolls were babies. Ruth wanted to create something that kids could see as a role model.
Girls could fantasize about being bigger. They could fantasize about being teenagers or young adults. They did not have to fantasize about being moms or wives.
Mattel was also one of the first toy companies to market straight to kids on TV, which helped it sell over 300,000 Barbies in 1959. For decades, Barbie dominated the fashion doll industry without major rivals. In 1991, Mattel reported that 95% of American girls between ages 3 and 11 owned multiple Barbies. But Barbie's reign was threatened in the early 2000s, when Bratz dolls first hit shelves. Designed as a direct challenge to the blonde, slim Barbie doll, Bratz featured a diverse cast with more skin tones, different hairstyles, and edgier fashion that resonated with tweens. By the mid-2000s, the Bratz doll had hit an estimated $1 billion in annual sales and gobbled up about 40% of the fashion doll market. In 2015, Barbie sales reached a 25-year low of $900 million, down over 50% from their peak in 1997. That same year, Mattel launched dozens of new Barbies with different body shapes, hairstyles, and skin tones. But it would take a few more years for the iconic doll to regain its former glory. Today, Barbie dolls come in over 30 skin tones, and Brian Maldonado creates them from scratch.
The biggest challenge I have, every Barbie character, Monster High character, everybody has their own different kind of skin tone. Actually just finished cooking one, and we're gonna go ahead and pull one out. Where you just get your trusty wrench, unlatch everything here, grab it, twist it, pop it right there. You got yourself a fresh Barbie head.
That doll head is the canvas for Barbie's hairstylists like Shirley Fujisaki. She used to work in a salon and has been the key lead hair designer at Mattel for 19 years.
Part of the interview process was actually getting on this machine that I've never touched before and rooting doll hair. If somebody's told me that I was going to be doing Barbie's hair when, I'm older, I'd be like, oh, you're crazy. Our favorite and best tool that we use every day is this pet brush, which is amazing. You would think a pet brush wouldn't smooth out the hair, but it does an amazing job.
Mattel's hair team has developed over 100 hairstyles in the last decade.
This one was kind of popular with adults just because of the tampering that we did on the hair, the style that we did on it, and just how creative it was to do the kitty ears with hair. One of the ones that took, I would say, probably up to about 8 or 10 iterations was this one. It's one of our Fashionista extra dolls. It took us a few different trials to figure out the exact color placement to get the combination coming to down here, so that it can show that ombre color from the front of it.
Adults have played a critical role in Barbie's comeback. During the pandemic, millennial parents started buying dolls for their kids to try to cut down their screen time. Nostalgic millennials also showed up en masse for the Barbie movie in 2023, a blockbuster hit that grossed roughly $1.4 billion. The movie helped reignite the collector's market too. Mark Lear, a longtime collector, has taken advantage of this comeback, selling his own line of custom outfits online.
So I bought these two fabric in Japan, and I got this online. The shipping's not cheap. I have to buy more.
He says he could sell this kimono for about $85, but he treats his business as a compliment to his hobby. Today, he has hundreds of vintage dolls worth tens of thousands of dollars in his home in Queens, New York. One of his most valuable items is this European doll, which helped inspire the first Barbie.
So this is called Lily, and this is from Germany, and this was from 1955. She was about maybe 3,000 to 4,000. Ruth went to Switzerland with her family, and she saw this doll on the window display.
Each Barbie cost $3 in the early days, and accessories cost extra. Today, Mark buys most of his new items on Etsy or eBay, like these $20 shoes. Mark isn't alone. Mattel says about 13% of its US sales come from adults.
And when you get older, you want to have something to feel like your childhood feels.
This is what Tabasco's original red sauce looks like years before it arrives at grocery stores. It starts here, aging inside these barrels in southern Louisiana.
It takes 5 years to make a bottle of Tabasco sauce. It's a long time.
And the recipe inside hasn't changed since 1868. Red peppers, vinegar, and salt. And even as the company's grown, it's managed to keep much of the production inside its headquarters on Avery Island. But Tabasco's storied home is now under threat. The factory is surrounded by shrinking marshes, making it vulnerable to hurricanes. And the company has spent millions on storm protection.
It changes drastic from storm to storm. You can see the marsh deteriorate, and what you do is you get out there and you plant again. You try and hold what you got.
We head to southern Louisiana to see how the 6th generation of the McElhenney family is fighting for the survival of its hot sauce and home. Tabasco grows peppers just for seeds inside this greenhouse.
We're also looking for the plants that produce the richest color red peppers at perfect size, and then flavor too.
Christian Brown is the great-great-great-grandson of founder Edmund McElhenney and the company's agriculture manager.
Yeah, everything's looking good. No signs of aphids.
He sends only the strongest seeds to over 1,000 Tabasco farms around the world. Tabasco says their peppers originate from the Amazon in South America. They're about 6 times hotter than a jalapeno, and they're tiny, only 1 to 1.5 inches long and weighing a gram each. Because the peppers are so small and easily damaged, machines don't do the harvesting.
They're all hand-picked.
Tabasco harvests 10 million pounds of peppers a year. This footage is from Louisiana, but the process looks similar abroad. They sprinkle salt on the peppers and use a giant machine to mash them into a paste. Farms ship the paste back to Avery Island through the port of New Orleans.
This mash is actually from Peru. We have 50,000 pounds of Tabasco mash inside that container bulked in.
This pump siphons the paste into white oak barrels. Some are 60 years old.
Most of these barrels in here are essentially a used bourbon barrel.
Why white oak?
I don't really have the answer. I know it works, and we've been doing it 150 plus years, so I'm not changing it.
A team works together to fill and seal each one. One truckload will fill up to 110 barrels, but they can't overfill them because
if you have too much pressure, sometimes those caps blow off. Sometimes the lids will pop off overnight. It's a really simple fix. Just kind of move it to the barrel next to it.
It can take 30 minutes to finish one row. Since they're old, the barrels don't have a perfect seal, so workers pour salt on top. It lets gases escape while limiting oxidation.
Salt on top is just an extra protective layer. If there is an imperfection, that will help.
The team stacks each barrel by mash origin.
So this whole bay here, going as far back as you can to get to the walls, is about 1,100 barrels of Columbia 2022.
The mash releases lots of gases during fermentation, so a tiny valve on top helps relieve the pressure.
You have to have some ventilation process or it's going to explode.
And that happens sometimes.
It's like a Tabasco ghost. They come in here at night and they pop the lids off, and we come back and there's 6 or 7 we have to fix.
After 3 years, the mash inside will stabilize, shrink, and darken in color.
We can see that it was filled to about this level here, and you can start to see rings on the side of that barrel where the mash is going down.
Even though it's shrunk, the aged mash is still really spicy.
No coughing?
Not yet. Not yet. But it is hot. So let's remember, this is 10 times more hot than actual sauce.
Next up, the aged mash is pumped into the blending room. Here, the pepper smell will hit you right in the back of the throat.
I could say like getting maced, I guess, every day. It can really hit you hard. But that's how I put my kids through college, so I'm good with that. I love it.
Morris Montgomery oversees blending, but he goes by Nook. The Army veteran ensures all the sauce tastes the same, even though it's coming from around the world.
I try to do it 3 or 4 different countries and put them together. So it could be like a little Colombia, Peru, and a little Ecuador and Honduras.
He pumps in vinegar and blends it all for up to 28 days. 72 tanks mix at the same time. Strainers remove pepper pulp and seeds. Nook will take a sample for the lab to test for pH, and then
This is finished Tabasco sauce, and this is ready to go. Next step to the bottling floor.
That's where John Simmons comes in.
And I'm also a member of the 6th generation of the McElhenney family to make Tabasco sauce.
John's factory fills up to 700,000 bottles every day, from minis to the iconic 5-ounce one. It also pumps out 9 different flavors, from original red to habanero. Sriracha is the company's fastest growing one. Today, machines do most of the filling, capping, and labeling.
So a bottle is going to go through in about 13 minutes.
They gather the bottles and package them into cardboard boxes.
We're doing it really fast at like 300 bottles a minute.
Next, the shipping room.
So we've got product for Germany, Japan, Sweden, Taiwan, the Canary Islands, South Africa.
Typically, all these newly packaged products leave the warehouse within 3 weeks. While the sauce is definitively global, Avery Island has always been home. This was where founder and former banker Edmund McElhenney first grew the tiny red peppers. He bottled his first hot sauce in 1868, sealed it with wax, and sold just under 700 bottles around the Gulf Coast. Each one cost $1. He named the brand Tabasco, after the Mexican state known for spice production and exports. Edmund got a patent for it, and by the early 1870s was selling his bottles across the US and even in Europe.
And then it kind of started to take a little steam and get bigger and bigger.
In one 24-hour period, we're going to double and then some more of what Edmund did in his entire life.
Edmund lived on Avery Island, which is a natural salt dome rising 163 feet above sea level. As the highest point along the U.S. Gulf Coast, it's been a respite from raging hurricanes for the McElhenney descendants that still call the island home. But it's now at risk. Louisiana's coast sinks by an average of 1/3 of an inch per year. On average, between 1985 and 2010, the state lost roughly a football field of wetlands every hour. When land sinks, it's more vulnerable to storm damage.
It changes drastic from storm to storm, depending where it makes landfall at. You can see the marsh deteriorate.
Heath Romero is Avery Island's land manager. He said when Hurricane Rita hit in 2005, it turned this island into a lake and parts of the marsh were destroyed. After Rita, the company built an 18-foot levee with a pump system around the factory.
We put in water control structures to stop the salt water from getting to the cypress trees.
They also planted tall grasses for protection.
And you can see we recovered all of this marsh that was open water at one time.
But it's a slow-moving process, especially as the home of Tabasco enters another hurricane season.
You can't wait for somebody else to help you. You have to take action in your own self and try and protect what you have.
This high school teacher makes thousands of dollars each month giving Labubus a makeover with real tattoos, piercings, and grills.
When I'm like tattooing him, I'm like, dang, he's going through it. Like that's gotta hurt.
By the time Ella Stevens finishes customizing this roughly $30 Labubu, he can resell it for more than $200.
I'm sitting back and I'm just hearing orders, on my phone go through. I would say this is crazier than Jordan's.
Chinese retailer Pop Mart has been selling Labubus since 2019. They helped the company more than double its revenue in a year. Now Pop Mart is worth more than Mattel and Hasbro combined. When new ones are released, they sell out within seconds. And they've gotten such a massive following on social media that even celebs and athletes have started dangling them from their bags. Which is why the resale market is so competitive. Prices for rare characters can skyrocket to as high as $30,000.
I'd buy these on the street. It was really hard to get them for a minute. And I had 70 orders and I'm like, I need these, please, whatever you need.
Now people like Ellis are building side hustles around the collectible. But they have to be careful because fakes known as Lafufus are on the rise too. And like Beanie Babies and Furbies, the hype could collapse, leaving collectors stuck with worthless toys. So why are customers willing to pay hundreds for a custom plush? And will this craze last? Ellis Stevens started his side hustle to pay for supplies for his art classroom.
In my first year of teaching, I think I made $43,000 here in the Bay Area. It's hardly $20 an hour. Every time I wanted to do a project, schools never had money. I sold bracelets, burritos, and tacos just so I can have like $80 by the end of the week to fund like a cool project. So my student was like, you got to get on these Labubus because like they're hot and you're always into like reselling. And then I started to customize them, and that's when the money changed.
One of his customizations is tattooing, another skill he picked up in 2022 to make extra cash.
I saw the Labubus as a canvas. The biggest thing is not to like dirty the hairline because that's almost impossible to clean. But the technical skill, this will be the hardest part. The damn hand. The hand is hard vinyl. And the hard vinyl, like once this little single needle hits that, if you're going a little too deep, it's just gonna jump and it's gonna skip. After doing hundreds of these, I'm still trying to figure out the best way to tap the hand. So we're gonna try this. Oh God, the pressure. Look how little that is.
One customization can take Ellis up to an hour, so he usually only has time to finish half of his 10 daily orders. They've gotten so high that he's had to pause orders for a few days to catch up.
I'm just in a vicious cycle of having to create. That's a hell of a custom. When I tell people like go crazy, sky's the limit, this is what I'm looking for.
Ellis tattoos any design customers request, but adapts it to his style.
This is also a really cool one. This person added a whole bunch of stuff and has a great story tying to their dog, their personal tattoos.
Right now, he charges $217 per custom, but he wants to charge $300 eventually.
It just happens that the Labubu, you're in a very exclusive group. Now you have your tattoo Labubu, and now you're in a really exclusive. And then now, like, you have a tattoo Labubu from me, like now you're really, really exclusive. You know, and you got to pay for exclusivity, right? That's what it is.
Labubu started out as a storybook character, dreamed up by Hong Kong artist Ka-Sing Leung in 2015.
A Labubu is a weird little monster. They have weird little snaggletooths, and they kind of look like they're up to no good.
In 2019, Leung teamed up with Chinese retailer Pop Mart to launch Labubu as a collectible. The monsters were sold mostly in blind boxes, so buyers had no idea which Labubu they'd get.
You're taking the gamble that, like, hopefully I'll get the brown one or I'll get the fuzzy one. And I think that really, like, does something to people's brains where they get really excited about it.
I'm gonna close my eyes and pull it out. Okay, close your eyes that way.
Your whole goal is to get that one rare one, and you're willing to like spend thousands to do it.
The rarest ones, known as secrets, can be nearly impossible to find, appearing in just one out of every 72 blind boxes. That's why they can fetch over $1,000 on eBay.
We live for like the uncertainty. I'm gonna take this leap of faith, this $40, and hopefully it's the green one, and it's like not. And you're like, oh damn, let me do it again.
The limited supply has created a frenzy, with new drops selling out almost instantly.
Labubus were huge over in China and in Singapore months and months and months ago, like almost a year ago. And then it migrated over to the US. You hear about like crazy lines, people camping out overnight.
Huge crowds and reported brawls even prompted Pop Mart stores in the UK to temporarily halt sales.
We also see this fascination online with people doing unboxings. You experience it with them. It's definitely become, I think, a real cultural moment. And people want to participate in cultural moments.
Now Labubu is Pop Mart's most popular blind box toy, and it's helped make the Chinese retailer more valuable than Mattel and Hasbro combined. We've seen this level of toy hype before.
It's insane. They wait 4 hours outside a department store and they crash in like cattle. They're dolls and they're just adorable, but I can't imagine people behaving that way.
Every so often, you get a toy brand that captures the broader imagination, we had Tickle Me Elmo, we had Cabbage Patch dolls. They provide a marker at a specific point in a time and a culture. So people can say, I was there when, and that they can feel connected to other people who love them as well.
But some of these fads burn out just as fast as they blow up. In the mid-90s, collectors swarmed toy stores for a chance to get a limited edition Beanie Baby. In 1998, its creator, Tying, sold over $1 billion worth of them. They became so popular, a rare plush toy bought for just $5 could resell for thousands. But by the end of the 90s, interest faded, and an oversupply caused the value of Beanie Babies to crash. That left collectors with nearly worthless stockpiles of plushies.
We've coined a new phrase as the rise and fall of the beanie gamblers, because the speculative craze just bottomed out and crashed.
Now, Beanie Babies are still made, you can still buy them, but they haven't become the cultural touchstone.
Today, Labubu's hype is also partly driven by scarcity. But Pop Mart has made a few decisions to give it some staying power. It's specifically marketed to older audiences.
They're also at a price point where it's like maybe a little too much for like a throwaway toy for a little kid. But if you're an adult who's like, oh, I want to get something silly from my bag, like that's a pretty decent price point.
Fans typically wear them out in public instead of keeping them on shelves.
I have mine on my work bag, and I see tons of people on my commute now on the New York City subway who are in like suits and fancy dresses and whatever with Labubus clipped onto their bags. They can at least be kind of like loved and worn down in ways that like a collector's item Beanie Baby can't.
Ellis says Pop Mart's real advantage comes from how it leverages social media.
Early 2000s, late 90s, like we didn't have like the instant Instagram posts that can reach millions of people literally in hours. Pop Mart and Labubu's, like they have that at their fingertips.
For now, the Labubu craze hasn't died down, which means Ellis has to hustle for new inventory.
I buy these on the street. I'm paying street prices. I'm not waiting online and getting a ton of them. I'm like calling resellers up who do that. I'm paying what everyone else is paying, sometimes even more.
Today, Ellis is on his way to meet one of his suppliers to pick up new stock.
We meet at a parking lot just so that we can keep everything safe. This is the Wild Wild West out here in California. Like you can easily be robbed or beat up and your stock taken. There's always reports of people stealing Labubus. Even if you leave them in your car dangling from the rearview mirror, they'll break your car windows out and steal them. What's up, bro?
What's up, bro?
How are you, man?
How are you?
Thanks for meeting me. Okay, I'm gonna get 15 sesame seeds,
yeah.
sesame beans, sesame seeds. Anytime I see a box, like if I see this yellow barcode, it's normally directly from Pop Mart. Never gotta worry about it being fake.
Just 15 of these Labubus cost Ellis $675.
I buy for like 25, 30, and then I sell them for 65.
Jefferson Lee has been in the resale hustle since 2016. Every month, he drops around $2,000 on software that buys Labubus the instant they go live. And he makes around $24,000 reselling them.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah. We'll meet up again soon. Definitely gonna hit you up.
Some people say this kind of mass buying and reselling is unfair and think it should be banned.
Say the early bird gets the worm. That's it.
Ellis buys up to 60 Labubus a week to keep up with demand. The prices for them can change in an instant.
Some weeks they'll just go crazy because a celebrity opened one on camera and then now everyone wants the pink one, right?
Fake Labubus called Lafufus are also on the rise, so Ellis is willing to pay more to buy from sellers he trusts.
One time I spent like $3,000 just to get authentic. But that lasts, 60 orders, then I never have to worry about anybody telling me like, hey, the one you tattooed and customized is fake.
Demand for fakes remains high because they're cheaper and easier to find.
They want to buy the Labubu just as much as they want to buy the actual Labubu.
Chinese authorities have tried to crack down, seizing tens of thousands of them at airport customs in 2025 alone. Pop Mart also added scannable QR codes in 2024 so people would know they were getting the real deal. But dupes are still flooding the global market. British authorities have seized thousands of fakes and warned that poorly made parts can break off, posing a choking hazard. Many fans are ignoring these concerns and even bracing the dupe's visible flaws.
Because it's so funny tearing open a Ziploc bag and holy smokes, this thing looks horrible. You know, like, that's hilarious.
So this is my Labubu. It is pretty horrifying. And then this is my actual Labubu. This one, like, it actually looks more like a guy. But I love them both, and they are friends.
Ellis thinks there's room for both too, but he refuses to sell dupes.
I've only met one reseller who sold me fake stuff. I called her out on it and was like, I need my money back. And she was, okay, you're not scamming me. You're gonna be scamming my customers and my buyers, and I can't have that. I'm not gonna cut corners when it comes to creating my art. Even if it takes longer, even if it takes me like digging into my own pockets or losing profit, like being able to have a product and whatever I'm selling be 100% is much more valuable than me saving $10, $15.
Labubu's long-term success may hinge on how well it adapts to a market that's always changing.
A fad is something that happens in a very short amount of time, an explosive flash. A long-term toy is something that is evolving over time to change to reflect a changing culture so that it stays relevant to different children and different populations as they come along.
They've probably been compared to Beanie Babies like every single day, every single waking hour of their production. And they're like, we're not gonna be that. It's not gonna be another trend. And even if it does become just another trend, like, I feel like they'll figure something out.
Before Canada Goose was Canada Goose, it was Snow Goose. And before that, Metro Sportswear Limited. Started in 1957 by Danny Reese's grandfather, Metro Sportswear began in a tiny Toronto warehouse with a focus on high-performance outerwear for Canada's working class. Unlike the prominently branded coats modern-day Canada Goose offers, most of Metro Sportswear's products were meant for other companies to slap their logos onto, like LL Bean and Eddie Bauer. But then Danny's father, David Reese, joined the company in 1972, filled with ideas that would set Metro Sportswear on the path to becoming Canada Goose. This was just one of his innovations, which changed the game not just for the company, but for the industry. David invented one of the first ever down-filling machines, which revolutionized Metro Sportswear's manufacturing process. Instead of filling every garment by hand, a slow, messy, and inexact process, this machine allowed workers to ramp up production with more control over quality. The company became known for its down-filling expertise. It even sold the machines to other factories for a time. But crucially, the down-filling machines opened the door for the company to start making more parkas, its signature item to this day.
So in our production lines, we have the capability to manufacture multiple styles, but at any given time, we are producing one style.
When Business Insider visited, the factory was focused on the Snow Mantra parka. This $1,895 parka takes 8.5 hours, 247 pattern pieces, and 45 craftspeople to come together. Unlike most garments, which might be sewn together by a handful of people, a single Canada Goose jacket requires a small army.
The sewing is the most critical part of it.
The fabric must first be cut.
In order to support our cutting operations here of approximately 2,000 jackets every day, we consume about 14,000 meters each and every single day.
The down, stuffed, and fluffed. And don't forget the iconic logo. Each production line can pump out up to 300 jackets a day. But Canada Goose declined to tell BI how many finished jackets are stored in the warehouse at any given time.
I don't know. That's kind of sensitive, sorry.
Each jacket goes through rigorous testing to make sure it will perform as advertised. Tests for strength, color transfer, and resistance check for flaws. This machine rubs up to 40,000 circles on a piece of sample fabric.
And after the test is finished, we check the appearance of the fabric to see if there's any pilling or any noticeable change to the look of the fabric.
To capitalize on the company's reputation for quality, in the late 1970s, David started selling Metro Sportswear's parkas under an in-house brand, Snow Goose.
You don't probably know the name of any private label company. I don't. All of the luxury brands that we think of rely on branding. It sounds obvious, but they have a logo. You think of Louis Vuitton's LV, you think of Gucci's Horsebit. Snow Goose really took Canada Goose from something that only people in the clothing industry and the garment industry, the manufacturing industry would have heard about into something that everyday people on the street would recognize and hear about.
They didn't cost $1,000 yet, but the private label gave the company a stepping stone to the Canada Goose prices we see today. But how do you convince folks to buy your new brand name label? Prove you can keep people warm. In the 80s, Metro Sportswear did. It developed the Expedition Parka for the United States Antarctic program. This was the company's warmest parka yet, with a windproof outer shell and resistance to temperatures down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. And a logo that looks incredibly similar to the Canada Goose logo we see today. Scientists nicknamed the coat Big Red, and it became standard issue for the Antarctic program. You'll still see bright red scientists and staff scuttling through the snow at McMurdo Base and South Pole Station today. Canada Goose sells a civilian version of the Expedition Parka. For $1,950, you can be as warm as an Arctic researcher. Until the early 90s, Metro Sportswear mainly served the Canadian market. But the early success of the Snow Goose brand helped the company take its first steps into Europe. Enter current CEO Danny Reese. He discovered that Snow Goose was already trademarked in the region. So in 2000, Snow Goose became Canada Goose.
One really important question, is Canada Goose prepared to provide people with parkas if we hit an apocalyptic ice age?
Absolutely. That's a question I don't get every day.
Before Danny took over as CEO in 2001, he was already pushing the company into the future.
I was our company's first customer service representative answering phones. I set up our first email. I cannot operate a sewing machine. But other than that, I've done pretty much every role, from packing jackets to sweeping floors, taking out garbage as a kid, to answering the phones and typing letters.
When Danny asked his father to step aside so he could run the company, revenue sat at just $2 million. Danny told Forbes that at the time, Canada Goose had a cult following in the coldest places on Earth, but that cult following made for a small market. He wanted to cast a wider net, but first he needed to convince regular people they needed high-performance outerwear. So he made it a luxury. Probably the most recognizable symbol of that shift is the logo. The first Canada Goose logo was a nod to the Snow Goose logo, featuring a goose with its wings outspread. But in the early 2000s came the emblem we know today. The patch is supposed to make wearers feel like they belong to a club. Instead of solely catering to a niche market of folks who need these parkas, he shifted the company's focus to high-income urbanites in cold climates who might want these parkas.
So going up market for Canada Goose meant going from something that people bought because they needed it to people buying it because they want to buy it. It means raising prices, marketing to a more luxury clientele, selling in more luxury stores.
The price of luxury came to about $1,000. The issue was Canadian city dwellers didn't seem to be interested. Every Toronto store owner Danny pitched the company's new catalog to turned him down. So he tried his luck abroad. Danny managed to persuade a handful of high-end retailers in Europe to purchase some parkas. And funnily enough, once Canadian retailers noticed the coats catching on abroad, they started placing orders, leading Canada Goose to re-import its product. By 2008, the company's sales revenue had grown to $16.4 million. And this growth came with next to no traditional marketing budget. Instead of purchasing primetime commercials or two-page spreads, Danny handed out parkas to people who would be seen working out in the cold. Hockey players, bouncers, valets, even ticket scalpers were gifted jackets in the hopes that they become analog influencers. While this effort helped the brand build an aura of authenticity, it didn't quite capture the attention of the luxury consumers Danny was trying to reach. Things really picked up when Canada Goose entered Hollywood, with its appearance in 2004's The Day After Tomorrow. Canada Goose did not pay for this inclusion, according to its former head of marketing, but it did provide parkas to the entire cast and crew. Months later, moviegoers saw the logo once again in National Treasure. In 2012, Danny dove deeper into the entertainment world by sponsoring film festivals like Sundance and the Toronto International Film Festival. He gave out hundreds of coats to attendees, filmmakers and actors, people in the industry who would be seen. It didn't take long for the Canada Goose logo to pop up in paparazzi photos of celebrities like Emma Stone, Hugh Jackman, and Common. By the time Canada Goose filed for an IPO in 2017, it was reporting a revenue of $291 million.
Canada Goose really embraced gifting before the influencer era, where gifting has become really popular. It's a lot more authentic to see someone wearing something because they're choosing to wear it versus being paid to. One thing that's important to remember is that gifting is a form of marketing. It is a marketing budget. It's expensive to send hundreds, thousands, whatever it is, dozens of these coats to people, but it's one that consumers believe, probably rightfully so, is a little more authentic.
At this point, Canada Goose products have appeared in over 300 film and TV productions around the world. Industry folks wearing gifted jackets is one thing, but leveraging that popularity to connect with the brand's actual consumer is something else.
We've been a wholesale brand for so long, and we decided that we wanted to have direct relationships with our consumers. We wanted to sell online, we wanted to have stores.
In 2014, the company launched its website, and in 2016, its first flagship stores in Toronto and New York City.
Luxury is all about experience. It's about feeling good when you wear the product, feeling good when you're buying the product, feeling good when you're browsing for the product, and you can control that whole experience in a brick and mortar boutique. And what you saw was when Canada Goose started opening brick and mortar stores, analysts reported that they were actively siphoning off sales from other outerwear brands like North Face.
In just 4 years, Canada Goose's direct-to-consumer sales went from zilch to accounting for nearly half the company's revenue in 2018. And today, it accounts for over 70% of its business. The company currently operates 72 retail stores and plans to open more. And while these plans reach across the globe, anchoring the company in Canada remains a priority. As other manufacturers in the industry picked up their operations and moved them abroad to cut costs, Danny made a bet.
We thought, well, if we could stick around and stay made in Canada for say 5 years while everyone else left, that we would be in this great position 5 years later because we'd be amongst the only people left making stuff in Canada, and that's what happened. And so, as a result, we had this competitive advantage where we were an industry leader at Made in Canada.
Canada is really cold, and so you trust that if this is made in Canada and people in Canada wear it, it's gonna keep me warm in New York, or it's gonna keep me warm in London. It also is a signifier of quality, whether fairly or not. People assume that if something is made in Canada versus made in China, there's gonna be more dedication to quality and making sure it works as a performance garment. You see this with Hermes. Most of their products are still made by hand in France. You see it with Brunello Cucinelli. Their sweaters are made in Italy in a factory town.
Yet the company has moved some of its manufacturing abroad. Its knitwear line, introduced in 2017, is manufactured in Italy, and some down-filled items come from Romania. Gloves and mitts are made in China. If you scroll down to product info on Canada Goose's FAQ page, you'll see that the company says it intends to find a Canadian manufacturer for gloves and mitts. But knitwear will stay abroad. The official reasoning for this being that's where the experts are.
Losing control over your supply chain, you just lose some of that authenticity that you have really capitalized on and kind of sold as your brand. So far for Canada Goose, this has not been a problem.
The brand's most notable controversy comes from its use of fur and feathers. In 2015, the organization Animal Justice filed a complaint with Canada's Competition Bureau, saying that Canada Goose's description of its coyote trapping practices as humane was false and misleading. The complaint was dismissed in 2016, but protests by PETA and other animal rights activists intensified. Protesters appeared at store openings, at the company's IPO, even outside Danny's house in 2021. Just over a month after that protest, Canada Goose announced its intention to end the use of all fur in its products. Danny has never said outright that the backlash is what moved him to make the change.
To us, it was an intuitive decision to stop using fur and to become a more sustainable company.
But that didn't stop PETA from claiming victory.
Luxury brands and fur have always gone hand in hand. Fur is a limited product, which means exclusivity. It's expensive, it's warm. What you're seeing in response to environmental concerns or animal welfare concerns is some luxury brands moving away from fur. Montclair, Dolce & Gabbana vowed to stop using fur. Canada Goose vowed to stop using fur. It's really hard to tell how much of that is a business reason in terms of people are not buying fur and how much of that is a marketing not ploy, but it's a marketing move to make the brand seem more palatable in response to critics.
Canada Goose wouldn't stop cold turkey, however. It laid out a multi-year plan for ditching fur, starting with ceasing the purchase of fur by the end of 2021 and the manufacturing by no later than the end of 2022.
The functionality of fur worked in such a way as it protected a person's face in the extreme cold weather or in windstorms and things like that. There's no specific material that replaces it. We very much focused on the construction of our hoods and all the surrounding elements to make sure that they were equally as functional as they were before when they did have fur.
Fur hasn't been Canada Goose's only animal rights controversy. Activists have also taken issue with the company's use of down. In 2017, PETA released a video that supposedly depicted mistreatment of geese at Canada Goose's down supplier. A PETA spokesperson told BI that afterward, Canada Goose agreed to diversify its products away from down. PETA has since removed mention of Canada Goose from the video, but there's little indication these controversies have hurt Canada Goose's sales. While profit has fluctuated for Canada Goose over the years, annual revenue has grown pretty consistently. It's been inching closer and closer to $1 billion since 2022. The shift to direct-to-consumer has caused a dip in wholesale revenue that has analysts cautious about Canada Goose's future. In response to the strategy change, wholesale revenue fell 41% this year. Direct-to-consumer has a lot of long-term growth potential, but moving away from wholesale so quickly has already caused some issues.
Can I just check what it is today? Let's see. Canada Goose stock. Not good, okay.
Over the last 5 years, the company's stock value has plummeted about 70%. In October 2024, Wells Fargo downgraded the stock from equal weight to underweight.
And basically that means that it's no longer going to perform, or they don't expect it to perform similarly to its luxury peers. They expect it to perform not as well.
The brokerage cited diminished brand heat as the main reason for the downgrade. Mentions of Canada Goose on social media fell 24% in the third quarter of 2024. At the same time, there was 11% growth in mentions of other outerwear brands.
A lot of luxury stocks have struggled this year, and it's a reflection of the macro environment. It's also a reflection of Canada Goose maybe losing a little of that brand heat.
In May 2024, Canada Goose updated its long-term goals. It outlined 3 main areas of focus: strengthening the DTC experience in person and online, expanding product lines, and simplifying internal operations. The creation of new categories moves Canada Goose's focus away from its core line of down-filled products, including parkas with $1,000-plus price tags. Shoes, home goods, and rain and warm weather clothing entice customers to buy more from Canada Goose year-round.
For a company like Canada Goose, which is built off one really high-quality product that's meant to last your lifetime, it's really hard to create repeat customers, and it's a balancing act because you want them to come back, but you don't want to move too far away from your niche because then you lose that core hero product.
In May 2024, the company appointed the fashion designer Haider Ackerman as its very first creative director. His first collection is true to form for Canada Goose, combining the old and the new in a 60-plus piece array based on the original Snow Goose line. It includes parkas, but also items from newer product categories like apparel and accessories.
You want to be really careful when you're expanding your product range or broadening your market because, again, it's a lot harder to go up market than it is to go down.
DNA told Vogue Business that bringing Ackerman on was part of a strategy of infusing a new energy into the brand, but in a way that stays true to our heritage. It's classic Canada Goose, mixing its established authenticity with innovation.
One thing that would be really smart for Canada Goose to do is move into different styles of winter jackets. So the key is to maybe make a new winter jacket style that people want. They don't necessarily need it. Their old Canada Goose will keep them warm, but it's a new look. It's hot. It's what everyone's wearing.
Overall, analysts seem to be cautiously optimistic about the future of Canada Goose. But as the company navigates its strategic shift, only time will tell if it can soar to new heights or if it's just winging it.
When you hear TGI Fridays, perhaps you think of family meals and colorful cocktails. But the chain started out by riding the wave of the sexual revolution in the 1960s as one of the first singles bars in the US.
My favorite line was, "Hi, darling, I own this place." And it worked every time.
But as Fridays became a family restaurant, it struggled against the competition and began shuttering restaurants after the 2008 financial crisis. So how did TGI Fridays go from the hottest spot in town to a diner in decline? When Alan Stillman opened his first bar in 1965, he was thinking about one thing.
My business plan was to meet a lot of women. It's a hell of a business plan, I'll tell you that.
Back then, women rarely went out drinking in public. It was even banned in some places.
Women didn't have a lot of the rights. I mean, you couldn't have your own credit card. Everything had to be, under the aegis of a man. You had to be connected to a male figure.
But things were changing, fast.
Out of the Vietnam War protests and out of the civil rights movements, there was a women's liberation movement.
A new movement for women's liberation is launched.
Cities were increasingly full of working women looking to spend time with their friends or find a date, just like Stillman. So he came up with a simple concept, a cocktail party that anyone could attend. Stillman redecorated an old bar on the corner of 1st Avenue and 63rd Street in Manhattan, with Tiffany lamps, ferns, and bentwood chairs. The waitstaff dressed in red and white stripes, and his concept was to create a space where women could feel welcome.
The word singles bar was not invented, and I certainly didn't think that I was inventing anything like that whatsoever.
Stillman's plan to find a date had worked, not only for him, but for single people all over New York. In 1970, a TGI Fridays opened in Memphis, this time as a franchise, and 4 more franchises followed soon after.
So I saw that, and I'd always vowed that after 10 years of corporate life, I was going to be an entrepreneur, and this looked like a good opportunity.
This is Dan Scogan. He signed a deal with Stillman to launch 8 new locations, starting with Dallas.
Little did I know that this decision would have me in a Volkswagen bus with a beard and bell-bottom pants and going around and buying antiques.
Until 1971, selling anything besides beer or wine at a bar in Dallas had been illegal for more than 5 decades, even after Prohibition ended.
And Prohibition is repealed.
But things were about to change.
We wanted to upscale what Alan had been doing.
When Skogan's TGI Fridays opened in 1972, it had phone booths, outdoor patios, and a raised square bar.
You had patrons at a bar, and then there was this teeny narrow passageway. The bodies were all smushed up together very deliberately, and that was a huge hit.
And we opened at 30% profit, which was over 3 times the best that any Fridays had ever done.
Skogan introduced strawberry daiquiris and other frozen cocktails, a new kind of drinks menu designed to appeal to women.
We would go every night and see what guys we could pick up at the bar. We were usually very successful because we were young and cute way back when, and I actually met my husband there.
We still wanted to be the best bar in town. And so all of our bartenders had to be able to free pour better than a machine could do it. And they had to be the most friendly, outgoing, wonderful people that you could ever buy a drink from.
I'd start doing the trick and then stop, make some drinks. So then you and the people you didn't know beside you would start talking. Oh, what are they doing? Now you're making friends. We were the biggest show in town. People would line up outside. We'd have to rope off the bar. We'd have to let people out to let people in.
But eventually, the lines began to dwindle.
Unfortunately, the singles bar thing ended. It was all of a sudden, and it caught me by surprise.
So Skogan decided to pay more attention to food.
We expanded the menu quite a bit. I mean, there were a lot of products in there. And that was our first step into being a restaurant, not just a bar.
Favorites like loaded potato skins were added to the menu.
He's going neutral territory, guys.
TGI Fridays was making a comeback as a pioneer of family dining. In 1975, Skogan and his partners sold the company to the Carlson Group. Stillman left the business and eventually went on to create Smith & Wollensky, the famous steakhouse. Skogan stayed on as CEO.
We went to work on a strategy of becoming an impulse buy, an alternative to eating at home.
A new category of restaurants was on the rise: casual family dining. In the 1970s and early 80s, chains like Ruby Tuesday, Chili's, Applebee's, and Olive Garden entered an increasingly crowded market. TGI Fridays tried hard to stay ahead of the curve. In 1983, Carlson decided to take the chain public. Menus changed every season. TGI Fridays came up with a kids menu, and non-alcoholic drinks debuted in 1983. By the time Fridays turned 20 in 1985, there were more than 100 locations across the US. And the focal point of every restaurant, the bar, had become part of popular culture. Flair bartending, as it was called, reached a whole new level. TGI Fridays went on to launch its own world championship. Alan Stillman even claims that Tom Cruise's character in Cocktail was based on him.
If you gotta sit in the water, go to Coney Island.
But for Skogan, growth came at a price.
Because of the rapid growth, we were having stores that were problematic. It was all because it just expanded way too rapidly.
Skogan left in 1986, and 3 years later, Carlson Companies bought out all the shareholders to take the chain private again and make a major push to expand.
I was at the end of my contract. He wanted me to stay on and do the international thing, and I said, no, I've got this boat. I've got to go get on and take my family and leave.
By the mid-1990s, almost every state had at least one TGI Fridays, and the brand had gone international. There was even a location at the US Air Base in Afghanistan. Over time, TGI Fridays introduced a low-carb menu and toned down the decor.
At TGI Fridays, we let our chefs flex their muscles, and we have a whole new menu to show for it.
But in spite of high ad spending, Fridays struggled to stand out.
Fridays was not distinguishing itself from the competition. A Fridays felt like an Applebee's, for an example, or an Applebee's felt like a Chili's.
They were all sort of working off of the same playbook in many ways.
In 2008, TGI Fridays had more than 600 restaurants in the US. But sales started to dip as the financial crisis gripped the restaurant industry.
You started to see the rise of this new segment called fast casual. They were now starting to offer extremely high quality meals And they were doing it cheaper, they were doing it faster, they were doing it where you didn't have to wait at your table, you didn't have to tip.
Between 2008 and 2019, Fridays closed more than 200 restaurants in the US. Sales also crashed. In 2020, plans to take TGI Fridays public once again were pulled as the pandemic rocked the industry.
When a company is planning on going public and then does not go public, that's usually not a great sign.
During the pandemic, TGI Fridays closed more than 74 of its 386 restaurants in the US.
People wanted things delivered to their homes. The pandemic really supercharged that.
But all is not lost for casual dining chains.
It's very premature to write off casual dining. The growth that casual dining has seen during 2021 has been nothing short of remarkable.
TGI Fridays still has 700 restaurants around the world, and its focus on delivery has started to pay off. In the UK, the iconic American chain rebranded to just Fridays in 2020.
I first bumped into Fridays in '89 when I first came to London, and it was a great place. It was lively, it was packed, it was 4 deep at the bar, cocktails were great, food was stuff you'd never eaten before.
The UK franchise is also hoping to rekindle some of the buzz of 1965. In May 2021, they launched a bar called none other than 63rd and 1st, a nod to Stillman's very first Manhattan bar.
The big thing for us is to rekindle the bar. Let's go back to our heritage, let's take the name, the 2 streets that it was created on, 63rd and 1st, let's use that as the name, make cocktails front and center, and do Americana food in a sharing plate environment with great music.
Returning to its roots, the company is hopeful to bring back some of that lost Friday feeling.